Well, good morning, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. We'll say welcome to those that are in the room, those that are down there in the sanctuary, and those that are joining us here online. My name is Rick. I'm one of the pastors here, and I'm going to be hanging around. If you're on site out in the crossing right outside the doors of the center, if you're down there in the sanctuary and you're new, please, we've not met, make your way down here. I would love to meet and connect with you as well. Now, we don't do this every weekend, but we did it last week, and we're going to do it again. And if you're online, you can do this right there in your home, the hospital, wherever you are traveling with your family, you can do the same thing. But I'm about to invite you to turn to someone and tell them your name. And I know right now some of your hearts are about beating pretty fast, and some of the introverts are going, oh crap, we're doing it again. Yeah, and we don't do this every week. If you're new, we don't do this on a regular basis. We really don't, okay? Because I know if you're new, it's kind of freaky to do stuff like this. And so, but you're getting ready to get freaked out. I'm just telling you on the heads up. So you're going to turn, tell someone your name, and then I want you to tell them about a friend that you had a great adventure with. Some friend that you had an adventure with. Now, you may have to get up, turn around, not to somebody you came with. Name a friend that you had a great adventure with. Ready? Online, you can do it to Sanctuary. Count of three, go. 1, 2, 3, go. Come on. Okay. I get it. You're not all introverts. Some of you are extroverts. I get it. Okay. I get it. Man, I bet there are some stories told in church that shouldn't be told in church. I'm just telling you. I bet it, yeah. Thank you for doing that. I'm not going to ask you to do anything I'm not willing to do myself. As I said, my name is Rick. And about a couple of weeks before I turned 50, my wife turned to me and she said, hey, what do you want to do for your birthday? And I said, nothing. Birthdays are not a big deal for me in my life or other people's life. I want them to be a big deal for them, but they're not a big deal in my life. I don't believe that you age from year to year. I believe aging is a day-to-day experience. Right? That's just kind of my own belief. And so this is the day the Lord has made. I'll rejoice and be glad in it. Happy birthday to me today, every day. That's just my mindset about life. But she says, but my wife and some of our close friends, they had a different idea. They had a better idea that they needed to do something for my birthday. So she tells me, hey, you're going on a trip. You need to pack a bag. And I said, oh, really? Now, I'm a little perturbed about this because, in part, I thought we'd already celebrated my birthday. Because if you were around here 20 years ago, when I had my 50th birthday, we kind of hosted a birthday for the whole church. And people came in their 70s stuff and had all the long hair and the bell bottoms. And it was really a whole lot of fun. And I thought that was it. It was enough. But I guess that wasn't enough because she said, I pack a bag, we're going on a trip. And she told me it was going to be on a Friday night, just one night only. So we get back on Saturday night, so I could be here for Sunday morning worship. This is before we had Saturday night worship, believe it or not. And so I'm kind of, okay, well, why do I pack? You got to tell me something. Sorry, I can't tell you anything. So I got one big suitcase, and I packed everything you could imagine, because I didn't know what we were doing or where we were going, just in case, right? So she had arranged for my ministry assistant to ask me to come and show up on Friday morning at 8 o'clock to sign some birthday letters. Years ago, I wrote a birthday letter to everybody in the church. Sorry, you got here too late, okay? I can't do that anymore, but I would write a birthday letter, so I had a bunch of letters to sign. So I showed up to sign those letters at 8 o'clock, and lo and behold, when we pulled into the parking lot, there was a limousine in the parking lot and my dad. Now, I'm really getting curious, and I'm getting a little perturbed, thinking, how much is this going to cost, I have no idea where we're going, not what we're going to do or anything. And she just says, get in the car. Now, I didn't know that when I got in the car what was going to happen, because on the other end of the limousine, where I couldn't see, there were 4 of our best friends parked on the end. And when I got in, that first picture you see my face, that was my shock. That 4 people would love me enough to put this aside, and then the shock and the joy, and then it turned to just tears where I couldn't believe it. That people would love me so much to do something. And I still didn't know where we're going. Now, to make a long story short, they wound up taking me to New York City. And we went to New York City, and I went everywhere via a limousine. Except in Central Park, where I got to take one of those little rides, and you see Dallas and I doing that. It was really cool. And they bought us tickets to the Yankee game, because some of you know I really like baseball. It sat right behind home plate, where you're on TV every time they're showing it from the center fielder. And it was really, really cool. But before we went to the game, we went to eat dinner at this place called The Post, restaurant called The Post. And this was like a 7 or 8 course meal, where the food just kept on coming, and there's no price tag on what you're ordering. They're just ordering. And I've got to tell you, my heart is just so touched. I'm so overwhelmed that friends would love me that much to do something like this. I just felt compelled to tell the table server, shoot me, as I tell the table server, can you just give me the tab? Just give me the bill. I'll pay for it. Surprise! Happy birthday to me. Let's just put it this way. When you get a little bill, they have a little decimal point. There wasn't just a decimal point. There was a comma, okay? There was a comma. And I'm still paying on that sucker today. It feels like on that credit card. The point is this. There's just nothing like really, really, really good friends. Friends who are with you in the best moments and the lowest moments. Friends that will laugh with you, friends that will cry with you, friends that will celebrate with you, friends that will grieve with you, friends that know every single thing about you, and they still just delight in you. They just want to be with you. The problem with that is that it doesn't happen a lot nowadays. The scripture we read last week, it's still pertinent here this morning. Proverbs 18:24. One who has unreliable friends, they soon come to ruin. You know what it's like for your friends to cause a train wreck in your life. And you go, I got the wrong friends. We all know what that's like. But there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. But last week I shared with you that's not very common today. We shared these stats and information with you last week. 3 or 4 people in the United States report moderate to high levels of loneliness. The percentage of people in the U.S. who claim to have close friends is just plummeting. More and more people in the U.S. are living alone. There's some of you here in this room, you can hear my voice. You're watching at home. You live alone. And many in the U.S. who are around people most days are still feeling alone. So much so that in May of 2023, the Surgeon General, been confirmed by Psychology Today in November of 25, that the United States of America, we who are in this room, who say we live here, are in the middle of an epidemic, a national crisis, not alcohol, not smoking, but loneliness. More and more people. In your notes, loneliness, we have found, is just as deadly as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. But loneliness is just not dangerous to us physically or emotionally, but spiritually, we learned last week. In the opening pages of the Bible, God makes it very clear in Genesis 2, verse 18. He says, it is not good for a human being to be alone. And yet that is where so many people are. Because you and I are made for relationship. We are made to know God through relationships. And by the way, study after study, research after research proves this fact. That people who live a long life, longevity in their life, not just their genes, not how much money you made, not how successful you have been, not how much celebrity or popularity you have out there on the internet, but the quality of your friendships. We told you this last week. The people who are the most satisfied with their relationships at age 50 are the healthiest at the age 80. And some of you in this room can testify to that. So we're kicking off this new school year because we kind of make our schedule according to the school year with a new mini-series talking about the transformative power of real friendship, calling it Better Together. And if you missed last week, I would encourage you to go back online and go to the website, go to your app, and try to find that message and catch up. And one of the things that we ask you to do this week in your life steps is to expend a little time and effort and text a friend in some other way every morning this week. If you've not downloaded the app, we have life steps Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And last week, part of it was to text a friend. Just take a moment to text a friend for whatever reason, because it requires time and effort. But some of you know, even though you require that time and effort, I heard from some of you, hey, Pastor, I'm willing to put in the time and I'm willing to do the effort, but I don't quite know where to start. Isn't it the truth that I don't care how much you grow up, how much you age, we're all just big people in middle school bodies? It's just so awkward to figure out how to make new friends, to talk to somebody you don't know. Some of you almost passed out when you heard we were going to do that again a while ago. To speak to somebody whose name you don't know. So how do I do that? And I know some of you just moved here into the area. You just moved here. And you moved into a spot from another part of the world. And you go, where do I start? Where do I go to make friends? I don't know. I don't know how to do that. Or maybe you're someone who just experienced death, the death of somebody, a spouse, a significant other. Maybe you just went through a divorce. And that death and that divorce sent you in another spiral where all of a sudden the people that you thought were your friends, they're no longer there. And the people that were your friends, they are no longer. So you find yourself going, or maybe you're someone who's a stay-at-home mom. Maybe you're someone who travels a whole lot. You spend a lot of time alone in a hotel room. Maybe you're someone that's starting school here for the very first time, and you've been here for a while, going to school now for a week and a half maybe, but you still find yourself not having friendships, young people, or maybe some of you going back to college. Or maybe you're someone, this happens a whole lot, maybe you're someone that you've invested in the lives of other people, but they've not reciprocated. And so you're putting out all the effort, but they're not trying back, and you still find yourself, man, how am I going to make real deep, abiding kind of friendships? I want to try to answer that question by looking at a story in the Bible where Jesus makes that happen. Now, it's my belief when you read the Bible and you read a story about Jesus, he is always going to do things to connect people together to create deep friendships. But I believe there's one text, particularly in the Bible, where he does that with some sense of intentionality that goes over most of our heads when we read that text. Now, if you want to go with me this morning, go to Mark chapter 3. Online, Sanctuary, go there with us, Mark chapter 3. We're going to hang out there this morning in Mark chapter 3. And a little context where you find in Mark chapter 3. Jesus has been healing, and he's been teaching, and all these crowds are coming around him. And he's already called out a few of his disciples. He called out a few. But Jesus is doing all the work. He's doing all the teaching. He's doing all of the healing. But it's about to change right here in Mark chapter 3. So this is what happens. Mark chapter 3, picking up verse 13. Jesus went up on a mountainside, and he called to him those that he wanted, and they came to him. He appointed 12 that they might be with him, and that he might send them out to preach and have authority to drive out demons. These are the 12 he appointed. Simon, to whom he gave the name Peter, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. To them he gave the name Boanerges, which means sons of thunder. Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. Now, there are some of you maybe who have read this text before if you've been around the church for a while, but you read it and you just skip right past it because you're kind of like me. That when you're reading the Bible and you read a list of names and it's just name after name after name, your brain kind of goes, why am I doing this? And so you read the names, but nothing sinks in because you think there's nothing here for me. So you just kind of blank out. We're not going to skip this text. I actually want to dive into the list of names because I think in these list of names, we get an idea, a clue of how Jesus wants to form deep, deep friendships in your life. Now, first, what he does not do, what he doesn't do. Here's what I want you to notice. Number one, Jesus didn't build connection between people solely based on their shared interest, experiences, or political allegiance. Of these 12 men, they didn't all have the same job. Some were fishermen, some were not. Peter, James, Andrew, and John are fishermen. They made a living by the trade of fishing. Matthew and Judas did not. They didn't all live in the same town. We know that 4 or 5 of them lived from Bethsaida, but the others were scattered from all other places. We also know of these 12, they all had different ideologies, different philosophies, even different political bents. For example, here in these list of names, there was one named Simon, not Simon that you know of as Peter, Simon the Zealot, the scripture says. Now, some of you may know this, some of you may not. Zealots in that day and time were a group of people, Jewish people, that were part of a radical political group of people. And they hated the Romans. They hated the Roman occupation of Israel. And their goal was to create enough violence, to spark violence, and to get mob mentality, to create violence, to drive out the Romans by force if necessary. There's only one group of folks that the Zealots hated more than the Romans. That was the tax collectors. The tax collectors were Jewish. They were family. They were brothers in the faith, who the Zealots believed had compromised their faith by aligning with the Romans to extort and collect money from their own people. Now, guess what Jesus does? Jesus chooses Simon the Zealot to be a part of his team of disciples, and he chooses a guy named Matthew, who happens to be what? A tax collector. Can you imagine how the conversation went when Jesus said, Simon, meet Matthew. Matthew, meet Simon. Shake hands, brothers. Y'all are going to be brothers. Can you imagine when they discovered the political polarization that they had and just the anger of those two? I mean, by definition, they would hate each other because of their political bent. And I just can imagine in my head, when Jesus goes to them both, he said, guess what, guys? Y'all are going to room together. I would love to have heard the conversation about that. Now, sir, the point is not that those are the only folks that you got to have friends with. It's okay for you to build friends with people who have shared interest in activities. In fact, you should. If you're someone who loves to hike, man, it's okay. Go make some friends and go hiking with them. Go do that. If you're someone who loves to go to concerts, I don't care what style of music it is, get your friends together and y'all go and just enjoy the heck out of those concerts and have a blast and build friendships. If you're someone who happens to love pickleball, you go find some friends that love pickleball and you just go knock your socks off and play all the pickleball in the world. Now, I would just say this. Some of you who play pickleball, y'all need to chill out a little bit. Pickleball is not the hope of the world, okay? And it's not really a sport. It's an activity, but it's not. I know I'm going to hear about that. I know. But here's the whole idea. Jesus is building friends on something so much deeper than agreeable on interest in activities. And when you look at these lists of names, You see the kind of friends Jesus wants you and you and you and you and you and anybody who can hear my voice right now, he wants you to have. Having friends based on common interest and activities is a good thing. But it's not the final determiner of friends that will stick with you. Notice something else. He didn't build connection between people solely based on the best presentation of self. Your deepest friendships are not going to be based on you being able to put on a mask and prove to people that you're something that you're not and be all smiley and happy when on the inside you're upset. Sometimes you and I think our best friends are going to be people who see us and they like us because they respect us because we seem to have our act together. Not the people that Jesus put together. Jesus put together the biggest group of misfits and mess-ups that ever walked on the face of the earth. Thomas was a doubter. Judas was a betrayer. James and John were the most self-promoting people you will ever meet. They went to Jesus, had the audacity, hey, Jesus, when we're going to have a dinner, make sure we get to sit at the head table. And then, when he wouldn't trust that's going to happen, they went and asked their mama to go ask Jesus, Mama, my boy. How self-promoted that to be mama's boys to get your mom ask Jesus for the question when he's not doing it that you want. And not only that, if when you read the Bible, he nicknamed them, did you notice this? Boanerges, which means sons of thunder. Did you also know that translated means sons of anger? These guys had a little anger issue. Don't look around. Are you sitting close or near to someone, just nod at me, just say, it has an anger issue. At one time, James and John and the disciples, they were going through a place called Samaria. And they didn't receive very good hospitality. So James and John, they got angry. They got ticked. And they said, hey, Jesus, do you want us to bring down fire from heaven and destroy those people? Jesus said, what are you guys smoking? No, just calm down. And yet, those are the guys he chose to be on his team. And then you got Peter. Oh, Peter. Oh, you just got to love Peter. Some of you may not have noticed this. When you read the Bible, you notice that when you read a list of the names, almost every single time, Peter's name is first in the list. Go check it out. Almost every single list. And it kind of makes me wonder, how did that happen? I just got to think Peter, every time his friends going to write the Bible, guys, when you're writing your story, make sure my name comes first. Put me at the first. Because he just always was the first to stick his foot in his mouth. He had to be the first one to say something, to do something, right? He always had to be the first. Like when Jesus is walking on the water, he was the first one to step out and the first one to go, bloop. He was the first one to say, I'll never deny you, Jesus. I'll never deny you. And whoop. Isn't it fascinating? The people that Jesus put together and created and solidified these wonderful, great, awesome, amazing friendships. Friendships that stuck on the same team. People he put on his team were not all like-minded. They all had the same backgrounds and the same beliefs. But somehow he forged and shaped them into friendships that lasted a lifetime. Now, how did that happen? Look at verse 14. He appointed 12 that they might be with him and that he might send them out to preach and to have authority to drive out demons. Now, right here, what you see in a nutshell is the responsibility of any single person who says they're a follower of Jesus. You are called to live out in your life, by the way you live your daily life, to somehow proclaim the hope that is in Christ. The forgiveness of sins, the overcoming of sin and of addiction, of depression, of darkness, of all the things in your life. That is our calling. That's what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. But I also want you to notice this is also Jesus' strategy for creating community and a group of friends that will stick to you closer than a brother or a sister. And I want you to notice something that it doesn't do in the text. He doesn't say, guys, now that we got our 12 together, let's all sit down around a campfire and let's all get vulnerable. Let's all tell our deepest, darkest sins and our deepest, darkest stories, and let's just pray for each other, and let's just open up the Old Testament and sit down in the Scriptures and just let's just sit down and get real, guys. Now, that's not a bad idea. There's nothing wrong with doing that for closeness, but that was not Jesus' prescription right here to develop a bond and a closeness among those 12 guys. What did he do? In your notes, here's his strategy. Jesus' strategy to build friendships that stick is ministry teams. A team of people that are doing some kind of ministry together. Those sort of people stick together. And it's not about going out and doing good deeds. There's something that happens when you're bound with another person and you're doing something for God together. And I want you to know something very important in this text. He chooses 12. Why 12? It doesn't mean that 12 is the perfect size for a Bible study or the perfect size for a small group. 12 goes back to the Old Testament. That when God decided that he needed to put the world back together, he created a team of 12 tribes called the 12 tribes of Israel that he was going to use to reach and redeem the world. And so in the New Testament, when Jesus is carrying on the work, he chooses 12 to come together to become a team that he would use to redeem and claim the same world. He says, you're going to be a part of the greatest team that's ever walked on the face of the earth. And that's what brought them together. And that's what broke down the dividing walls, the difference of opinion and beliefs and ideas. That's what broke all those walls down and created friendships. Now, here's my point. The friendships that you really long for in your life, the intimacy, the companionship, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the depth of friendships that you want is not just from people who think the way you think, believe the way you think, and like what you like. It's from people who are willing to come yoked alongside of you to do something for God that is bigger than you both. A mission that has nothing to do with you, but for the building and the recreating of what God is doing in the world. To be a part of a team. And it's not just to do good works, but it's so you can build a relationship with someone that will stick. I don't care what else happens. Now, some of you right now are saying, you know what, Pastor? That sounds kind of self-promoting. After all, you lead an organization that cannot survive and function without people who are not being paid, people not being paid who are part of the team doing the work of the church. I'm not telling you this morning because we need your help. I'm not telling you this morning to try to get you to do something just for the sake of you doing something. This morning, I'm telling you because this is a secret I have discovered about deep, close friendships. I mean real friendships. One of the reasons I'm so grateful to God that he called me into ministry are the things that I get to do with other people and the bonds that are created. I am so grateful God has allowed me to serve here for 40 years. Thank you for allowing me to do so. Because over the course of 40 years, I baptized now grandparents and their kids and now their grandkids. presided at weddings and funerals and and been on teams and seen God do miracles, and together in the trenches with them. There are friendships that God has allowed me to forge with folks when we work together for the kingdom of God. And church, I would say this is true for you. In your notes, number 3, serving God on a team with others is the secret. It's the secret to deep and abiding friendships. That's why I told you that story of my friends taking me to New York City. That's the only reason I told you that story. I've been friends with those 2 guys, Joey and Jeff, for over 30 years. We played on the church softball team together. We stood side by side at graves, burying our friends, burying our family. We cried together. We've been in the hospital room together with the birth of our grandkids and celebrate all the great announcements of all that sort of stuff. We've had coffee together talking about past birthday trips, hoping about future birthday trips, but that's not what bound us together. Let me tell you what bound us together. It started in this church when we started serving God together and not ever really knowing each other until that time. And then we started serving and doing things for God together. And we saw the miracles of God together, of God expanding these walls and making room for some of you that you have no idea the cost that was made. Seeing God do miracles, building buildings that we had no money to do it. And these men together, we just prayed and wrestled and struggled together to see what God, and we witnessed miracles of people going through divorce, being healed and restored, people who are in addiction being set free, depression, so depressed that the tentacles just had them in prison, like being in prison. People that were actually in prison, getting out and finding meaning and worth and power, being a part of the life of the church. The miracle of watching God create a community right before your very eyes of people who are not all the same. All races, all colors, all socioeconomic groups, all political parties. You name the political party. I don't care. Shapes and sizes, young and old, across the board, you name it. All coming together and the one thing, bound by the blood and grace of Jesus Christ. And church, when you work together with another person and you see that come to fruition, there's a bond that created that nothing can separate. I mean, absolutely nothing. And I want that for you so badly, I can't stand it. Because I know what it's like to have those sort of friends in your life. Because I had those same friendships with some of you out here in this room right here. Because together we have witnessed what God can do. And we've been there working side by side in the bond that's created. And you can have it. But you got to be a part of a team where you're doing that together with someone. And that's why out there in the crossing, all this week and next week, we're going to have folks out there where you can learn about being a part of these teams, and you can do all that. And I just want to encourage you, consider finding out about that. Because here's what the church needs. I'm going to tell you what the church needs. We just sang a song, Building Your Church. The church needs people who just don't come here and sit and watch. The church needs people who want to build friendships with other people, just bond so deep that they're just in it. They're just in it. Because you know what happened at COVID? You know what happened when COVID hit? COVID was the great revealer. And you know what happens when every major election happens? The election is just a major revealer. Political divide and discourse and all that sort of stuff. COVID revealed churches. Because all of a sudden churches started fraying and based on politics and this idea and that idea and do this or don't do that. Oh, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave it. Basically, it just revealed so much because we weren't being held together by the blood and grace of Jesus Christ that when differences come, we can say, we're deeper than this. We're bound together by Christ and doing His works. That's what holds us together. And when you're held together by that, see, friends who serve together, they stick together through hell. I don't care what's going on. And you can have that in your life. You can. Jennifer Cass, a member of this church, some of you may know her. Jennifer and her husband James used to work door one right over here all the time, guest services. She's part of this team. And all of a sudden, her liver and kidney were dying. But she was a part of a team called Guest Services here in this church. When she didn't think she was going to make it because she was on the list and she never got that liver. You look at her now, I guarantee you, if you saw her just a few months ago, you would know that she was she was just knocking on death's doors, her color, but now she got that liver. And the reason she got a liver is there's a young lady in this church who saw her signs all over the place that I just baptized here a few years ago. And she said, why not me? And she had her liver checked and she found it was a match for Jennifer. And as soon as they found it was a match, the medical team started working in San Antonio to get ready, but also her guest services team that she served on. And I'm looking at some of them right now. They gathered together, put together a 20-minute video to pray for her and to encourage her. Some of them really didn't know her, but she was a part of their team. And she was going to make sure that she was not alone. Because friends who serve God together, they stick together, they pray together, they just hang together through thick and through thin. They're a friend who will stick through you. I don't care what you're going through. Do you have those people in your life? You need them in your life. I'm going to make one more observation. Now I'm going to move toward wrapping this thing up from this text. And here's the last observation I will make. People who serve God together will grow in their friendship with God. People who serve God together, on a team together, they will grow in their friendship with God. Remember last week, John 15, Jesus is about to go to the cross. He looked at his disciples who'd been serving him for 3 years, and he said, guys, I'm about to go to the cross. You've been serving me faithfully, but now I no longer call you my servants, I call you my friends. Man, there's nothing like Jesus calling you his friend. And I want you to have that. I want you to know that joy. I want to make sure you get this. And some of you already know this. There's a part of God you will never know. There's a part of God you will never know until you serve him alongside of somebody else. I'm looking at some people right now nodding their heads. They go, yeah, I know that's true. There's a part of God you will never know. I know that to be a fact. Look at the Bible. Those disciples, they saw Jesus heal the sick. They saw him take demons out. They saw him bring people back to life. And they didn't do it because they had right doctrine and right belief. They did it because they joined his team and they had a front row seat and got to watch what Jesus got to do. And when you do that, you see a part of God that you won't see except when you're a part of his team and him working through you. If you don't believe me, you just ask the people who sing up here who don't get paid. You ask the guest services people who open the doors for you. Ask them. Ask the people who have your kids right now when you pick them up. Ask them. They'll tell you. So here's your homework. I'm going to get you out of here. First homework last week, you know what it was? It was to text a friend, text a friend, text a friend, text a friend, text a friend. Here's your homework. Join a team. If you call this your church home, if you say, I'm going to land here, or maybe you're going to learn about us, but if you call it land here, I want to challenge you for your sake, not our sake, your sake. I want you to go out in the crossing this morning and just learn about one of these areas that you might want. You have no idea the number of teams we have here. And you're going to learn about it's not about your giftedness. It's not about your passion. It's that you developing friendships that will stick with you. And I just encourage you to do that, okay? Just go learn. And don't wait till next week. Do it today. Just take a look. We're going to leave. You have plenty of time to do that this morning. Just go learn and just see today. Just become a part of it. And if you're already a part of a team, please don't sign up for another team. I'm not asking you to do that. Here's what I'm asking you to do. You can sign that QR code too if you want to learn more. All week long you can learn more. If you're already on a team, lean in relationally. Just lean in. Get to know the person you're serving next to at the door. Say, hey, tell me about your family. Tell me about your kids. Hey, what do you got coming up next week? Hey, how can I pray for you next week? Hey, what'd you get out of the life step this morning? You didn't do it? You know what? I didn't do the life step either. Hey, let's do it together right now. Open up your phone and just take 5 minutes to do it together right there. I'm just saying, take the conversation a little deeper and to see what God will do when you Just see. Just see. Here's how I want you to stand. I want everybody to stand. Everybody stand. I want you to turn to somebody around you and smile at them. Smile. Give them a smile. Come on. You can smile. I know you can. Give them a fist bump. Give them a fist bump. Yeah, come with somebody. They might be your next best friend. You don't even know it. That might be your next best friend. God, I thank you for your church. A place where people can come from all walks of life. Different interests, different beliefs, different philosophies, different ideas. Be bound together by your cross. In a place where deep friendships can be born. Friendships that stick. God, I'm just grateful in your great wisdom when you looked at the world and you saw this deep challenge of all the sin and all the brokenness and all the problem. Then you saw our need for meaningful relationship, that you found a way to kill two birds with one stone. I'll bring my people together and form a team. And they'll get so close seeing me do miracle after miracle right before their very eyes through the work they do together, that we'll get what we really need. God, I wish I could list all the names right now. I wish I could name all the people over the course of the past 40 years that you have allowed me to become friends with. The staff, the elders, the deacons, all the servants who have shaped me and molded me, who have loved me and challenged me, who supported me, prayed for me, encouraged me, picked me up when I was down, brought me down when I needed it to not be so high. Thank you, God, for these people that have shaped me. And God, I'm thankful some 2,000 years ago, after your disciples had served you so faithfully for 3 years, you told them, I'll no longer call you servants. You're my friend. You're my friend. And one day, may every one of us hear those words. Well done, my good and faithful friend. In Jesus' name, amen.